everyone, and welcome to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm Vic Frost, and I hope you're having a great day. So today I'm going to talk about basically my thoughts overall for season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and after that I'm going to watch the extras for this series. So I like went over the episodes that were in the season. I think this was genuinely my favorite season so far. I loved it so much. Um, I think it was just a lot of fun. I think it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of episodes that were very well made. They were very well made, I feel like, and they were very well written, and they all came together. There was not a lot of episodes that were just random ass, you know? There were not a lot of those. Most of them were like pretty chill and good and nice. But in earlier seasons, sometimes the episodes could just they could be gone and you wouldn't even notice the difference. You know what I mean? But this never, and I think they did it really well as well. There was not too much plot in the way that it got too intense sometimes, but it was just a lot of fun, and I really liked it. I thought it's my favorite season so far of the three I watched. It's my favorite. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go over each episode. Well, not each episode because I don't remember necessarily everything, but just talk about it. So I started 3 months ago. By the way, I thought it was a lot earlier than that. Later. Thought I started. Come on, Simon. I thought I started earlier than that. So the first episode is Anne when she's away and she's just sad. She's just sad. But I thought it was really well. I like how they introduced her back. They were just like, "Oh my god, you're back! What?" You know? I thought it was really good how they did it and how they showed just her being back. Really, just her being back and just hanging out with the gang and having tension with the gang, and I loved how they did that. I don't know, I'm not gonna go each episode, but I'm gonna tell you my favorites. My favorite episode. Now, this is my favorite includes the writing. It's the writing and just how much I personally liked it. So even if the episode was oh my god, but it was written so well compared to the other ones, yeah, I know, but that was so good because feelings of happiness. So I think my favorite episodes were The Wish, or slash Doppelgangland. So good. I love dimension travel, and that is what happened. I love it so much. That was so good. So yeah, those are my favorites. Official. And I think also the episode the Zeppel, I think, where Xander is being badass. Is that an episode? I think so. Anyways, I thought it was so good, and I thought it showed his character a lot, and I liked how they did the music to show the difference between what was really serious and happening and what was happening with Xander. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. So yeah, and I like how they did the whole Buffy Xander relationship. I thought that was awesome. Um, because like I said, to me, the beginning of season 3 was so long ago, so long ago. But it started with Buffy thinking she killed um Angel. Then 3 episodes later, he comes back, and he's insane. And then he gains sanity, and then they don't talk to each other much, and they're just kind of weird. And then they kiss, and then it's they're together but not together, and they establish to not sleep together, and it's just a bit weird. For a while, it's a bit weird. Um, and then yeah, and then they break up, and I think I really liked like even though all this happened, like, he was fucking dead for millions of years. He was dead. Legit dead. But it went so smoothly that I kind of forgot it happened. Like, I genuinely kind of forgot it happened. Um, that it just felt natural. Like, when they broke up, to me, I was like, oh yeah, they've been together for a long time, so it doesn't just feel too abrupt. Abrupt? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that was really good for that. I think that was really nice for that, and I really liked it for that relationship. I think it was really good. Um, like, they had to have breakup because there was too many factors in their relationship that made it not work. You know what I mean? There was like the mortality, the fucking age gap, all that shit. Like, made it that the relationship was be hard to work or not work at all. Um, so yeah. So I'm glad to see how it went, and I like it. Like, I only wish that they had stayed together because it makes Buffy sad. But à part ça, there's no really reason for me to want them to stay together because honestly, the age gap was always weird and stuff. So I'm just glad that that's not a thing anymore. That that's not a thing anymore. So yeah, of course they're still gonna interact with one another for sure, but I thought it was good nonetheless. I really liked how they did their relationship and how they showed who they are and how Buffy matured and evolved, and the way that at the end she was like, yeah, I like he's right about it and I'm sad but he's right. Um makes it very great. It makes it very great. So I think that was the best part. Really, that was the best part. I love how they did their relationship. And I think that was really good. Um Now, as I've like remembered stuff as I was like sifting through it through all my videos. Um well, Faith, it feels unreal to me that she got introduced this season and got like killed slash in a coma at the same time. Like, that's insane. Like, it feels she's been there the whole time, but she's not, and I find that so wild. It's so wild to me because especially nowadays, where like episodes are like there's like 8 episodes, 10, 12, but that 21 or 22, which is sad. I wish they could do that again, but I don't know why. I generally don't know anything about film, so I couldn't tell you why. Um, so it feels like so long ago that she was just, there. That she, it would feel so long ago that she was there, but I like how they came into being kind of a rival of Buffy, and then turning into a best friend of Buffy, and then I like how they did her character. Do I like all her decisions? No, not at all. But she was a. I liked her character development, and even though the mayor the mayor was evil, he still loved her, and he still like she had got to have this relationship, and I feel like she might come back. The fact that she's in a coma, and there's like a small chance that she's gonna come back. Like, I'm pretty sure she's gonna come back. Um, Whether it's this season or not, je ne sais pas. But there's a chance that it will. So I think that's really great. I think that's really great that they do that. Um, what else? I thought that was really good. I liked the maturity of Willow. I think that she got to go from just not immature, but she had less of a presence in a way. Comment dire? it's like she got more mature, and she got to learn more magic, and she got to kind of got her own responsibility and kind of grow into herself this season, and I really like that. I think the cheating kind of woke her up. It's like, oops, sorry. That there are consequences to the actions that you do, and you can't just do that. And I think she grew into that. Xander, I don't know if I don't, well, I don't know if it worked for him. Honestly, I don't freaking know, but I thought it was really well done nonetheless, and I thought that they did really great with it. And of course, I don't condone cheating or stuff like that, but I still think that just the way they did it. Yes, Xander. I think Xander evolved as well in this show. He matured. I think that episode that he started made him mature more. And I really like that. I really like how he did that, how he's doing that. I think it's really good. And, well, I guess, I don't know, but seriously, I thought it was really good how they did it. And to see him mature, and I hope because even after, because the thing is, Xander is never going to be my favorite character. But you can't. I'm talking about character development, but at the same time, each character has its own core and its own personality and don't know who they are, and just like getting rid of that makes it getting rid of the character, and it's not actual character development. You know what I mean? So, but I like how they each progressed through this season, like in a mature way, in responsibilities, and I really liked it. I like also how Cordelia changed throughout the season and stuff, and I think it was really great. What else? I thought it was a really great season for character development overall. I can't wait to see Angel. I can't wait to see Angel. I can't wait to see well, more Angel, because Buffy, it's probably gonna be in the same theme, but Angel, it's a whole new show, and I actually watched the actuals beforehand because I didn't know how long this was gonna take. Well, I knew what the other one was gonna take. And he says like, "Oh, it's a more mature and adult show, so I'm looking forward to it." And it looks like with a whole new cast, except like Buffy, and they're probably gonna pop up once in a while. So yay! I'm excited. I'm really excited. But I'm gonna have to watch Buffy first because there's a watch order and stuff. But yeah, and I think it's great. Oh la la. No, but seriously, I think it was great. It was such a good season. I really liked it overall. I really liked the theme that they talked about and how they ended high school, and I can't wait to see how they're gonna do with college. I I I'm super excited for later seasons where they're gonna be in the workforce because I think that's gonna be even more interesting. Just growing with the characters as well. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see more about this. But yeah, it's kind of what I thought for season 3. That was really great, really good character arcs, character development. Really great. Every single one episode that I watched, like I'm looking at my channel to just because the thumbnails will help a lot to see. Um, but just I can't wait also to see more about the council. I can't wait to see more about the thing that uh Aya or something that said that like there's only like half demons come to Earth, and the other one like they're not full demons. So like that's so interesting. Oh my god! So I can't wait to see that. I can't wait for all of that. That's gonna be so great. I don't know if it's all gonna be addressed here, of course, but yeah. I hope you guys like the season. And without further ado, let's go with the extras.
About 10 years ago, I had an idea for a movie. I'd seen a lot of horror movies, which I love very much, with blonde girls getting themselves killed in dark alleys, and I just germinated this idea about how much I'd like to see a blonde girl go into a dark alley, get attacked by a big monster, and then kill it. And that was sort of the genesis for the idea of the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I worked on that for a while, and eventually it got made. Several years after, the people who owned the rights came to me and said, "Are you interested in making a series out of it?" And
I
although
think
it
this
had been a
is the
fun
same
idea
one
for a
as
movie, I wasn't really sure if there was a whole series
season 2.
there just about this girl
But I could
going
be
and
wrong.
killing vampires. So I started to think about it, and I came up with the notion of playing all sorts of horror movies in high school and making them really metaphors for just how frightening and horrible high school is. My original script for the movie was kind of dark and scary, and it was comedic, but the final product was much more just a broad comedy. With the show, I kind of wanted to get back to the roots of genuine horror, but with a lot of comedy and a lot of edge and a lot of sort of, self-reflective.
Yeah, people have been saying in the comments that this whole show is a metaphor for how much high school sucks, which is really funny to me. But I mean, I know that's what he said as well. But
Examination
like,
of horror, but at the same time make it genuinely creepy
yeah.
and hopefully genuinely moving. Sunnydale is every town in America, basically, and really every town in the world. We chose a bright, sunny, sunshiny California town because that sort of contrasts with what we expect, where we expect to see horror. But basically it's supposed to be any high school, your high school, my high school, anywhere where boys and girls are going through their adolescence and torturing each other because of it. Ostensibly, in the narrative, we put the town on a hellmouth. Which means that it's a sort of center of mystical energy, and every sort of monster and creature and spell and bad thing that can happen from around the world
a good high school experience.
And that's our excuse for, all these monsters that keep cropping up. But really, anybody who's ever been to high school knows that they're just there. Well, we had certain rules about making vampires that we imposed on ourselves. I wanted them to look monstrous. So that when Buffy killed them, we didn't feel this was a girl just killing people. I felt uncomfortable with that. I wanted to say, these are demons.
Yeah,
At the same time, you want them to look normal, so you can wonder, is that guy a vampire? So we could hide the truth about Angel. So we, had the idea, and this has been done before, we're not the first to use it, that when they feed or when they get very emotional, their demon faces sort of come out. And as far as the character, Buffy has to fight every kind of demon that we can come up with. Frankensteins, robots, demons, with horns, a ventriloquist dummy, and, any horror movie that we loved, we want to throw in there. Buffy was an incredibly difficult part to cast because you really need a character actress in the body of a leading lady, and that's harder to find than you might expect. Sarah came in. She was beautiful, she was accomplished, she actually had taken some Taekwondo, which didn't hurt, but,
oh, nice.
But the most important thing is she found the humor in it. She was very light and very engaging and very funny, but at the same time she brought a lot of intelligence to it, which is something Buffy needs. If she's just a bimbo, eventually you lose interest, but Sarah could be as quirky and silly as Buffy needs to be, but at the same time bring real depth and intelligence to what she's going through. Buffy was always intended to be a role model, and we're not out to confront issues, we're not out to to lecture people, but it was very important to me that Buffy be the kind of girl girls could look up to and relate to and show not only a hero but how difficult it is to be a hero. Well, Buffyism is basically just an odd way of speaking. People often quote the sort of things that people say, but we don't have a lot of phrases that we like to use. Basically, it's not about creating a word that all the kids are going to go out and say. It's more about just sort of twisting the English language until it cries out in pain. I love language, and I love playing with the way people talk and their cadences, and the thing about trying to create hip, fresh teen speak is that by the time you get it on the air, it's over.
Yeah.
You can't say what the teens are saying because they're not saying it anymore. And, the 40,000 sitcoms of guys going, well, that's whack, and, for 3 years after people had stopped saying it, were just embarrassing. So I knew when I wrote the movie, I tried to listen to teenagers to see what they talk like, and they all talked like Heathers. So that was useless to me, so I said, I'll just create a way of speaking. And if it catches on, then it will be what teens are saying. Well, Angel started out as a potential love interest, but quite frankly, we had no idea. Would he work? Would he be any good? David was an unknown, and we didn't know if people would respond to the relationship. Of course, they did, and Buffy and Angel are a great romance. Well, yes.
Having the broken up thing just
I was a
happen?
pathetic loser in high school, and this school Sunnydale is based largely on my high school experience and the experiences of other writers who work on the show. I attended a school, in New York for several years, Riverdale, where I underwent many humiliations and much anxiety, and that finds its way in the series. I actually finished high school in England at a all-male boarding school.
I play Buffy Summers, who is the chosen one, and to every generation is born
so weird.
one whose
I love
job
it.
is to fight the evil, not just vampires, any underground evil. And the Slayer is the person that is born to fight this. You are chosen. There can only be one Slayer at a time. Every time a Slayer dies, a new one is called. Usually you discover it when they come and find you. In Buffy's case, she was in her high school in Los Angeles, a sort of vapid and vacuous valley girl. And one day her watcher showed up and said, "You are the chosen one." And from then on, it's been her job. Sunnydale is a town in Southern California, sort of unspecified as to exactly where it is. We assume it's south of Los Angeles. And Sunnydale happens to be built on a hellmouth, which is a portal of evil. So evil demons, they all seem to gravitate towards Sunnydale because of this hellmouth. Giles is Buffy's watcher. Buffy had a watcher before Giles, who we don't talk about much, who, if you've seen the movie, you know he was killed. But it's not something we address much. Giles and Buffy have a sort of antagonistic relationship. He's very stuffy British, and she's still part Valley Girl, so a lot of it is conflict, but he loves her like a father loves a child. So there are emotions that are crossed there. Well, I think like every teenager, Buffy's torn. There's a point in your life when you're not a child anymore, but you're not an adult. And there are decisions to be made that people don't want to help you with, and it's a very, very difficult time. And there's Buffy just trying to deal with the problems of adolescence, of dating, of parenting, of, learning when to cross the line, when not to. At the same time, she has this adult job and adult responsibility, and the two worlds collide. Well, as I've gotten older, so has Buffy. Obviously, aside from the physical and the hairdos changing and the hair colors, Buffy's matured through her experiences. She's seen a lot now. She's had her first love. She's had her first sexual experience. And she's gone through a lot of things with her friends, and like anybody, that changes you. Joss has his own sort of language that's a little difficult for us mere mortals to understand. I grew up in New York. We didn't have Valley Girls, and a lot of times I should say constantly, I'm asking him, what does this mean? I'm not quite sure. There's a very funny story around here, and that revolves around the audition, where the first line is, "What's the sitch?" And there I go walking in, and my first, "What does this mean?" No idea it meant situation. Talk about blowing a job instantly.
But you got it, so it's
Joss
fine.
is brilliant. I mean, the show is his baby. These ideas are all in his head, and it's wonderful to see him take them from up here and most of the time able to explain them to us. The show is done with love, and that's the amazing thing, and it's not just Joss, it's everybody. It's every grip and electrician, and everybody loves the show. It's a very brutal show to make. The hours are horrible. The conditions are never wonderful. We work a lot of nights, a lot of smoke, a lot of fire. The show couldn't be done if everybody didn't love doing it and was proud of the work that they did. Well, I think the beauty of the show is that it appeals to everybody. It's a show that adults can watch with their children. Young children just enjoy the monsters and the pretty people and the funny jokes. Older teenagers can relate to it, especially females. It's the first time in a long time now the trend is moving towards it. We're gravitating towards these strong female individuals that people can look up to.
Yeah,
Buffy is not the
I
smartest
mentioned
in her
this in
school.
the
She's
season
not
2.
the prettiest. She's not the most popular. She's okay with who
Our
she
takes
is.
in the
But it's very important as a teenager that you
I
have
did
someone that you can
talk
look up
about
to that's an
female
individual.
protagonist, so
Because as we all know,
you wanna check
high
that
school
out, you
is
can.
not your sheep. You follow the trends, and it's wonderful to learn that individuality is important. Young, early 20s, it's just a fun, campy show, and adults can watch it with their children and later talk about the messages that we incorporate. A lot of the metaphors that Joss uses relate to everybody. I mean, at some point in their life, everybody knows what it's like to feel invisible in school. The people don't notice you. Our girl just happens to actually turn invisible. Every day is a challenge on this show. Between sitting in makeup for all this time to get these bruises, to going from a happy scene to a crying scene, to it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we're still doing action work. It is a very difficult show to do.
Yeah, so my relationship with Buffy is the fact that, his name is Angel. He's a 242-year-old vampire with a conscience who has feelings for Buffy, who is a vampire slayer. And in the beginning of the whole episodes, the beginning of the season, she didn't know he was a vampire, and now found out. And so now that I am a vampire, there's that tension, that romantic heat that's between the two of us. should she kill, should she not kill? And she can't kill because I have feelings for her, and she knows I'm good, but I probably will turn bad.
I would probably
they
turn
were
bad.
basically
Wow.
pretty much in the 11th hour with the character.
Foreshadowing.
And they had looked for, all over the place for this guy. And at the time, I didn't have a manager, and I was walking my dog, and my manager saw me walking my dog. And he said, "Oh, this guy would be great for the part. I know the casting director." So he stopped me and said, "I'd like to take you in and for this part. Are you an actor?" "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah." And before I knew it, I was in
Randomly on the
Buffy.
street?
Got the part, wasn't even signed with my manager, and it's just
Wow.
snowballed from there. It's just the character has literally taken off from a 7 out of 12 in the first episode to being a series regular the second season and becoming part of the team, so it's been quite a ride. He's moving away from Sunnydale, and Joss has created his second series called Angel, which will take place in Los Angeles. And
You don't seem too
it'll
thrilled
be
about
more
it.
of an adult-oriented show where I will fight the demons of, the demons of people's pasts, what they hold on to, and
Cool.
what Angel lives for.
I'm looking forward
what
to it.
He goes through with his nightmares.
It's
to try to
be
make
funny
him
because I think this is gonna be a last episode that goes up in March, but I'm watching. Today is March 11th, and I'm gonna be watching the first episode of Angel this Sunday. Yeah, the 17th. So I can't
other
wait.
people by killing their own demons and somewhat trying to regain his own soul in the process. So it should make for very interesting episodes.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I don't know if it's
Sarah's
gonna be too melodramatic. But
it's one of the other things I will miss most about leaving the show is working with Sarah. We've created a special bond between the two of us that is very unique and different, and she has the ability to transform herself very quickly, very professionally, and very openly, which makes it easier for another actor to kind of ride along with her. She comforts you and gives you a sense of who you are as a person and not as an actor, which is,
Cool.
I feel, the best thing to have. She's a wonderful presence, and she's very strong in what she does. She exudes a lot of confidence, and it shows, and I'll miss that a lot. Yeah, the makeup process takes about an hour and 20 minutes. It's a piece that fits from here to here, and Todd McIntosh is wonderful. He just blends it all in, so the final result's very sharp and clean, makes for a very scary vampire.
yeah,
It
it
can
looks
be
pretty
tedious,
good.
and taking it off is the worst part because you have to sit there and you want to just rip the damn thing off, but you can't because you'll take a piece of your skin with you, so it has to be removed very delicately to take it off. But the end result is great. It's worth it. Definitely is worth it. It's a wide range, and that's one of the most surprising things about it is the fact that they see Buffy the Vampire Slayer, think teenage, but you know what? Watch it and you'll be surprised because the writing dictates the show and leads you on a ride that you'll have a lot of fun with.
Well, I play Willow Rosenberg, and she's the computer genius of the show, I would say. And she's Buffy's best friend. And yeah, that's Willow. The one element? Oh, wow. There's so many great elements of the show, but I really think that it's the writing. We have such incredible scripts, and we're just so fortunate to be able to, get to act that stuff. So I would say that the best part of the show is definitely the writing, because then we have so much less that we need to do, You just sort of show up and know the lines, and it all clicks.
That's cool.
Joss is just an incredible genius, and the way he just comes up with things, it's incredible. I would love to just get around and explore inside his brain, but that's not possible, because I've tried, and he just won't let me. He's like, get away from me. But yeah, he's just incredible, and he's just always on the ball, and always has millions of ideas floating. I think Willow's a good role model. She does extremely well in school,
Willow's the
which is
best.
very important.
After Oz, I think
And,
she's my favorite.
You know,
Her
and
and
she's,
Buffy. I don't know
I think,
which
the
one
most
would win.
realistic character, you know, when you look at the kids in high school and stuff.
True.
It's just the mail that I receive is always talking about, you know, oh, I'm just like Willow, or my best friend is just like Willow. So so I know people out there can definitely relate to her. And, you know, I just think that like, Buffy is the girl everybody wants to be, but Willow is more like
Who they
what
actually are.
you know, which is good. It's just she doesn't have superpowers. What qualities does Buffy have that makes her a good role model? Well, you know, she's smart. She stands up for herself, and even if they play on the whole, you know, she doesn't do as well as she could in school. She does. She scored high on her SATs. So, and she's just.
I was like,
she's
oh,
a
you
great
know,
role
Buffy's
model
not
for girls
pretty.
because
Like Joss was saying, like, you
shows
know,
that you know,
like a loser. It's like Buffy is
that you can be
fucking
strong
pretty.
and confident, and you know, and
Like,
be
what are you
independent
saying?
and not have to just go with the flow in high school.
I play Xander Lavelle Harris. He's very deep. He's kind of like the spiritual advisor to everybody. No, kidding. I'm just a funny guy, you know. Joke here, joke there. I'm like seasoning.
Seasoning.
I'm kissing more girls now, which is good. I'm more physically active.
Okay.
Sexually, of course, but it's all very safe. And in terms of the physical stuff, I guess I've just become more brave, you know. Before I would kind of squeal. Have you ever stuck a pig before? No? They squeal, man. They're loud. First season I would squeal like a stuck pig. Now I'm pretty much I say, hey, don't do that, and then I'll run.
Sure.
Yeah, we had a lot of people die in my high school. It was tragic too, and we had a mayor that would just try to hide it all. No, I wish it was like this. I didn't date in high school at all, and lines weren't written for me. I didn't go into a classroom knowing what was going to happen. You know what I mean? I wish I did. Now I go into a classroom knowing what's going to happen, like what my test is going to be. So, but no, it's I hated high school.
I never thought of it that way.
With a passion, I hated high school. So it's nice to be able to relive it again. Oh, the Buffyism. What's the sitch? What's the 411? Hi. That's not a Buffyism. That's just a normalism. They have this certain. Pretty much, they chop words in half. So
True.
that sentence would be they chop or ha. That would be a Buffyism.
Yes, I'm Buffy's watcher. The basic premise is that we have an American high school girl who is told in her teens that she is the only woman, the only girl in all the world of her generation who has been chosen to hunt and kill vampires. She's already had a bad experience with that. She's burnt a school gym down, and she's moved away from where she was in order to start life afresh and forget the fact that she's the chosen one, the Slayer.
But it doesn't work out.
And she pitches up at Sunnydale High School, where I'm waiting for her. I am her watcher, who is basically her mentor, the person who's been chosen to watch over her, to take care of her, to train her, to discipline her, to teach her. And she's not terribly happy with that. She really just wants to go out with boys, paint her fingernails, and go to the mall. I mean, the reason he's British is because it provides a nice foil for Buffy's very American attitudes. And she's
I think he's American. I don't think he's British.
There's a total culture clash.
I thought he was, but
culture clash. I mean, she's talking in a language that my
I
character
was shocked
doesn't
by
understand.
this fact, but
Even though
maybe
we
it's
speak the same
another
language,
actor.
we don't
Because
speak the same language.
he's speaking with a British accent right now.
Well, normally Brits out here get cast as either the bad guys or the complete fools. Giles is not a fool. He's deeply learned.
Yeah. Uther
one of the choices I
Pendragon,
made
ladies and gentlemen.
at the
The
beginning was
reincarnation
that
of Uther Pendragon.
I've prepared for this for some time, and that there's a lot of theory gone into it, but that I've had absolutely no practical experience. So that when we actually first get into the fray, it's a bit of a shock, and there's a fair amount of ground to be had from that. It's the first time that anyone has proven that you can have real humour, wit, dry humour, and then at the same time have tragedy, real tragedy,
Really?
and thrills.
That
and
hasn't
horror.
happened before.
Normally,
Then when this show was out.
if comedy and horror go together, it's a spoof. That's the only way people really have ever dealt with it before. And Joss set out from the beginning to say you can have all the emotions, you can, and they are heightened by the existence of the other emotions. She doesn't stop. I mean, thankfully she's young. So, yeah, she doesn't stop. She's in it 8 days out of 8 days. Very rarely is she not on set.
8 days?
She does
What?
a lot of the physical stuff. She does have a stunt double, but, thank God, to be honest, because, I mean, she'd be beaten to a pulp by now.
True, true.
She's very nasty in the beginning, but as time goes on, she becomes more dimensional. There's some interaction going on with the other characters that creates... there's always conflict between Cordelia and Buffy, which is always fun to watch. But then there's a romance involved, and so we get to see a softer side of Cordelia, which is nicer and surprisingly heroic at times, and she's, pretty darn interesting character, in my opinion. Through romance, Xander and Cordelia have a lot of sexual tension pent up since, I guess, we've known each other since we were kids in elementary school. And,
was I like this? I think I was.
Opposites attract. So he's very tight with Willow and Buffy, which is, considered the Scooby Gang, and that was kind of my way in.
Yeah.
I think
and then
that,
even if she's
first
not
of all,
with
the
them,
show
she's
is
with them at the
very,
same time.
it's nice to look at. It's shot well. The cinematography is amazing. It's darker, so you're attracted to it immediately because it's different from anything else you might see on television, especially that's high school oriented. I think the fact that there's a lot of teen angst, there's a lot of appeal with watching someone such as Buffy, a young, pretty girl struggling, coping with situations as they're drawn. She feels different because she's a slayer.
Yeah, you relate to it. Yeah.
That's very compelling. So there's like a drama element. There's a lot of humor and self-deprecation involved. Like the show makes fun of itself in a lot of ways. That's attractive. And special effects and the fighting, draws the men. And I don't know, it's just a great show. It's a very ambitious show. We try to tackle a lot of things in one show, and I think we're pretty successful at it. I don't think there's anything else really out on television that does all of those things, humor and drama and special effects and comedy. It's great.
I wouldn't know, but I think she's right.
She has a lot of strength in that department. Well, she's been doing it for many, many years, so she's a veteran. She's a consummate professional in the regards of knowing where her marks, hitting her mark, knowing her light, knowing her lines. And she's skilled in the regard that if she needs to cry, like, she can do that. She's just, she works a lot, and that's why. She's a talented actress.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one thing that we've been really conscious of, is maintaining the core of the character, which is an intelligent, inquisitive, and he keeps to himself. He doesn't say anything unless he's got something very specific to say, and whenever he talks, it's usually some grand observation involving everyone's perception of a certain situation instead of just his own. I like that a lot.
I do too.
People make the
character so much
comparison all the time. I didn't really have a horrific high school career, so I can't equate that to battling demons and monsters on the Hellmouth. But, some people apparently didn't get along with their teachers and other kids. I don't know. So the first time I met him at this audition, I was really excited by how much he cared about even the most periphery characters. He wanted everything to be very specific. He had a real vision for everything that was going on. I like that a lot.
I like that he was also
and that
like
was one of the
one character that you saw everyone like he just saw a little bit. Like he wasn't there for like half of season 1. I don't know when he showed up. I don't remember, but it's like it was not at first he wasn't there, and now he's just a central character.
On the show when they asked me was I knew that the person whose vision this was going to stay on. He wasn't going to like bake it and then leave it for other people to distribute. He's on the set all the time. He's very specific and nurturing to it so that we all feel like an important part.
That's cool.
Well, at the end of the second season, it's quite a shock for Joyce to discover that my daughter's a vampire slayer. So this year I'm really having to contend with that. You know, what it's like to have a daughter who has superpowers and, you know, worrying about her getting hurt and taking on the world, and at the same time,
she was really there at the beginning of the season, and then she kind of just fizzled out.
Parent and a teenager, how much of her life can I share? You know, how much do I need to stay out of the way? And that's one thing that's really special about the show too, is a lot of times the main writer producer will start to kind of back off and turn the reins over to somebody else and move on to another project, and Joss is incredibly hands-on. I mean, he comes down and watches almost every rehearsal, and is just really there to keep the thread and the through
have more than one project and just be like, well guys, just do it yourself, bye.
Slayer is willful and insolent.
Shop and hang out and go to school and save the world from unspeakable demons. You know, I want to do girly stuff.
Her abuse of the English language is such that I understand only every other sentence.
I love the way we use language on the show.
I've never, ever been told on the show, dumb it down.
We don't make a lot of speeches on the show.
It's sort of a across-the-board style.
The language of Buffy is really the language of Joss Whedon.
I'm a blood-sucking fiend. Look at my outfit.
A lot of it is the way Joss naturally speaks.
It's more a verbal non-verbal.
That's absorbed by all of us and put into the speeches.
I'm gonna give you all a nice, fun, normal evening if I have to kill every single person on the face of the earth to do it.
Joss really talks that way, and we've all kind of adopted it.
I think Joss sort of wanted to try to do is accomplish the same kind of playing with language.
You're being careful, right?
Full of carefulness.
And making it feel fresh and kind of young, while at the same time not making it feel dated.
Kiss rocks. Why would anyone want to kiss? Oh wait, I get it.
A lot of people think that what we do is sort of hang out and listen to teenagers and take stuff from the way they speak, and we really don't. We make it all up.
We love language, and we don't hold anything back, and it's a really nice liberty that we have.
What that means, though, is that when you're writing, you have to constantly think about how can I turn this phrase a little bit.
I'll think of the straight line to say, the line that gets the intent across, and then I'll figure out what's the flippy way to say that.
Girl makes Godot look punctual.
Sometimes I'll go to the thesaurus and just try to find a different word and then play with that word a little bit.
Abbreviate words or you know, fragment words or you know, or have a pop reference.
I'm Cletus the slack-jawed yokel.
Just moving them around a little, giving the ear something a little new to chew on. So it's really kind of a word game that the writers have.
But often what I'm just doing is channeling Joss.
Joss Whedon, the creator of the show, goes through and does a rewrite on everyone's script.
Oh, really?
And that means there will be a good number of jokes in every episode that he has either inserted into the script or that came into the script in the first place because he pitched them when we were working out the story.
It would be fun in high school to have a staff of 35-year-olds writing your dialogue, you know, because you could just be witty all the time.
And in some language, that's English?
So it feels real natural to me that Buffy and the Scooby Gang would have this kind of way of talking to one another that's very individual to them. Each of our characters has their own distinct voice.
How come the sudden calisthenics? Aren't you sort of naturally buff?
Why do I put up with this?
Because it is your destiny.
Right. Now I'm going to be stuck with serious thoughts all day.
So Cordelia wished for something? Well, if it was a long, healthy life, she should get her money back.
And so you get a feel for what Xander could say versus what Faith could say.
I've never been up with people before.
Hey, as long as you don't go scratching at me or humping my leg, we're 5 by 5.
They're very specific, and they all have their very specific worldview.
It's really delightful. It's really part of making a full and textured world is when you really start getting an ear for who would say exactly what.
Why is it every time I go somewhere with you, it always ends in violence and terror?
I once wrote a line for Xander, and at the last minute said, well, Willow doesn't have much to do with this scene. I'll give this line to Willow. And Jess immediately said, that's a Xander line, that's not a Willow line. switched it, didn't you? I said, yes, I did.
Usually when someone compliments a joke, it ends up being his because he's just that good.
I may be love's bitch, but at least I'm man enough to admit it.
I love writing for our English characters.
No standards. I mean, any self-respecting demon should be living in a pit of filth or a nice crypt.
Give me a minute. And some defibrillators if you're not too much trouble.
I just sort of give it a try. I'll drop some British slang into their lines. I figure if it's wrong, Joss will catch it. So having Giles call Wesley a Burke.
Burke.
Or other phrases that I've used in other episodes. And in an episode I wrote very recently where I actually changed the name of a demon in order to get a joke about British slang.
My God, he's looking at her.
I'd always thought that Wesley was very Pierce Brosnan-y.
He's got his filthy adult Pierce Brosnan eyes all over my Cordy.
It struck me as odd that we'd never comment on his Pierce Brosnan-ness. So when I had a chance to have Xander react to the fact that Wesley liked Cordelia, it just seemed obvious to me to use the word Pierce Brosnan-y.
But I'm the one getting single white femaled here.
It's funny the things that people remember, lines that jump out at people. There's a line in Band Candy, "I'll slay all the time," was one that I wrote that I've seen pulled out and put in articles. As much as we'd love to go all Willy Loman on you.
We're not in the band.
Which has been cited as sort of like a phrase from the show, like one that needs translation, which I think is hilarious. That's one of those, a perfect example of just sort of assume our audience knows
Must
it.
be
In
so
the same
cool.
episode, almost the same scene, I think, Buffy also says it's like living in the real world house, only real. So they're sort of at the other end of the spectrum to have a complete pop culture reference like that right next to Willy Loman. I love when our show does that. In Gingerbread, Buffy sees an arcane symbol that Willow has drawn on her notebook and sort of says, "Why do you have this?" a little accusingly. And Willow says, "It's a doodle. I do doodle. You too. You do doodle too." Which I think almost killed the actress because it's very hard to say.
Buffy, so used to doing these things that are so operatic and huge and the stuff of Norse mythology, and to her, it's like, yeah, and then I got homework.
I broke my number 2 pencil.
Again, you take these giant events and toss them away because we do this all the time. I'm the Slayer.
Nice lane.
New Olympic category.
Sometimes something will actually catch on, which is really fun when a phrase that you're kind of mirrored back through the press or something and you realize that we've had a little bit of impact.
They get to be as witty as we were in high school.
I can handle the odds, full Monty.
And as dumb as we are now, because we're that too.
It's one of the areas that makes writing the show really challenging and interesting.
And that's one of the great delights in writing for the show is when you've written a perfect line.
Want to see my impression of Gandhi?
You know it. You feel it in your gut. It's like, yes, that's what she'd say.
Gandhi? Well, you know, he was really pissed off.
Who has the least fear? And that has nothing to do with who has a... I can't talk, sorry. That's like a business class ticket to cool with complimentary mojo after takeoff. Sorry. Don't look at that camera, it's bad. I don't mean to. Very bad.
I just think that, well, I don't want you getting into trouble.
I love bloopers.
Yeah, Mr. Faithful. Probably met up with some hot little monkey.
You better be careful not to put somebody's eye out with that thing. Until I tell you to. Until I tell you.
She says he's clean.
Yeah, well, I say we can't afford to find it. God.
You know, Oz, look at all. Stop hitting me, Xander.
Wesley Wyndham Price.
I like a man with 2 last names. I'm Charisma. I'm Cordelia.
Charisma.
There must be something about this. About this.
What's the line? You can do it. You can do it.
None of them are really the type that I'd go for.
Huh? Should I finish your line?
It's okay. It's actually a dot, dot, dot. So.
Is it dot, dot, dot?
Yeah.
The dot, 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 read it.
Oh, I hear you, you redneck moron. You got a dress that goes with that hat?
Oh, I'm going.
You're gonna what?
Sorry, I telegraphed that.
Oh no! Oh my god, how many times did he get hit? Oh!
But what I don't see is what I want to see. That's my leg.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
relationships change on Buffy. It's almost always with part of the big picture in mind. Joss is very much aware of which characters he wants to get together next.
Season 3 was sort of about growing up, you know, about maturing in a relationship.
Yeah.
And the painful realization that love
They
isn't
can't.
enough in some circumstances.
I'm afraid.
You should be.
Buffy and Angel in season 3 came to grips with the reality of their limitations as a couple.
There was only so much you could do with that epic love story once they knew that they could never really be together.
This season was definitely geared toward bringing an end to the Buffy and Angel relationship, or letting us realize that it can never work.
I gotta go.
That's why I think it resonated
They did
for a
it
lot
good.
of people, because, you know, that is true sometimes.
I think Helpless might have been the first episode where we actually see they cannot function as a couple because they can't ever consummate the relationship.
It's a very real situation for.
Also, I'm just gonna address that real quick. Just because they can't have sex, like they said, they can't. The guy said they can't function as a relationship because they can't consume. They can't function as a couple because they can't consume the relationship. And there's a lot of couples that don't necessarily have sex. You don't need to have sex to be a couple. There's people that are asexual, so they don't feel sexual attraction. So that's really wrong. And I know this is in the 1990 something, so that's why it's like, if you, it's not true that they can't be a couple because they can't have sex. Ain't true. Like, maybe, so for some people, I'm not saying, like, for some people, they need to have sex in their relationship, else, like, they're like, no, I can't, I need to have sex. And that's okay. But to just say there's no other way in couples, they all have to have sex.
Teenagers. We're in love and we can't sleep together. And we want to, but we can't for whatever reasons.
There's some people who still send letters saying, get them back together.
I saw you before you became the Slayer.
What?
I watched you.
It was Joss's idea
Creepily.
to bring it back to the beginning, to talk about how Angel first saw Buffy, and to have a strong emotional connection to them that will carry on even after he leaves, but at the same time, kind of acknowledging the sort of doomed nature of their relationship.
Because I could see your heart.
The beautiful thing about the scene is how, in its typical Joss fashion, that it's a very moving speech.
That's
And
beautiful.
And then it ends.
How he saw Buffy holding her heart out, and how Buffy undercuts it.
Or taken literally, incredibly gross.
Yeah.
That's a typical Joss thing, to have a beautiful sentiment and then undercut it with comedy.
So what, you telling me never?
I don't think any of us realized how important Faith was going to be to that season.
Yeah.
The original conception, which did sort of stay with us, is the road not taken. Here's a Slayer that makes the wrong choice.
She was, everything that Buffy would never let herself be.
A lot of people connected with her because she started to represent like the working class, Slayer.
Watching that character dissolve into that kind of evil and watching the sort of tug of war emotionally.
That was me fighting for my life, Miss Attention Span. This isn't a Tupperware party. It's a little hard to plan.
Through the course of the season, you can actually see Buffy flirt with the idea of making those same choices and decide not to.
She's a reflection of Buffy. She's what Buffy could be.
But isn't. I mean, she's also, like, intense as well
That's what
a
a lot of the
bit.
episodes that featured the two of them together were really about. In a more sort of philosophical sense, what do you do with power? What are the boundaries of power?
Being a Slayer is not the same as being a killer.
Eliza began to take over every scene she was in, and the more intensity and more evil she would bring to her scenes, the more vulnerability she would lay under it.
What about the assignment?
Tell you what, you do the homework and I'll copy yours.
The idea of power and ability matched with circumstance.
Faith, you can shut off all the emotions that you want, but eventually they're gonna find a body.
If you take the same sort of raw materials and then you combine them
It
with
was intense, those
their upbringing
episodes.
and the environment that they came from, what would you get?
It was a big turning point for Faith. It's the first time that we really see the differences between Faith and Buffy to the point where they actually fight.
Faith, we can figure this out.
It's the first Faith-Buffy fight.
Is it? I thought they
A
had
lot of
fought
stuff
before.
blew up at the end of the episode, and these two Slayers fought.
Oh, yeah, that. Okay, I was right.
Oh, there it is. The mayor becomes the
So
father,
good.
and very supportive
father and one who loves
Yeah.
unconditionally.
Everyone, because episode 19? Yeah, episode 19 went up last week. Not exactly last week, but a few days ago. And man, some people were like, oh, the young and naive. Like, someone called me young and naive because I didn't get that they were that the mayor liked her, and I thought it was hilarious. It's like, because most villains in this show have been evil, and it's logical, and also my thought was like that she was gonna realize the mayor was evil and come back. So in my head, because of that theory, they never could. But I just like he can be a very deceptive evil. I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh my god, you don't realize he could be evil? I thought it was hilarious.
More moving than a father-daughter relationship.
And he's someone that won't put her down, and I think that's one of her big life battles.
He's actually kind of lonely, and he genuinely loves her.
The whole idea that villains have as many needs for connection and love, and that those are quite as real for them as they are for
That's why I like the
good
mayor
guys,
so much.
always makes villains more interesting.
Thank you, Sugar Daddy.
Now, Faith, I don't find that sort of thing amusing. I'm a family man.
For him, it's a person that he can nurture, that they're on the exact same wavelength.
This is a thing of beauty, boss.
Well, it costs a pretty penny.
When he
And
gives
also,
her
I
that
think it's also because sometimes he threatens her. You know, he's like he used to threaten her, so I think that would also just kind of, make it weirder if he genuinely liked her as a daughter.
Knife. It's like, here, honey, it's car keys.
She trusts him a little too much, and he kind of leads her into being more crazy.
She's the loneliest person in Sunnydale, and she desperately needs a father.
I know you'll always have me, Faith. I'm the best and most important friend you'll ever have.
There's a great moment in this episode that I didn't script and that we almost cut out. The mayor says to Faith,
I've got 2 words that are gonna make all the pain go away. Miniature. Golf.
and I always envisioned that as her looking at him like, who is this guy? And Eliza did a take where she looks at him, and then she cracks up. She just starts to laugh, and she looks at him with this great love and affection, and it's this, are you for real? You're so corny, but I love you.
That's true,
Dedication is the final step before my ascension.
It's because of his performance that the mayor ended up being such an important character. He just came in and gave it this wonderful, innocent glee at his own evil. It was just delightful.
Let's
Love
just
him
say
so much,
I
as
won't be
in-
concerned with the little things.
The more we looked at what Harry was doing, it was so charming and so disarming and so Father Knows Best, and we loved that.
Who knows? With any luck, they'll kill each other. Then everyone's a winner.
He's not a villain who looks like a villain. He's not the master with the fruit punch mouth.
Everyone, of course, being me.
He's this guy who's going to seem, almost sunny and
Yeah, he's
real
so giddy.
average.
Let's give a job opening.
When the relationship with Faith started, where they had this really loving father-daughter relationship, it just worked so well, those two actors, that we sort of, this is our show, this is our season. Joss is great at creating villains who you like. We liked Spike and Drew because they loved each other.
Yeah,
and
true.
The mayor and Faith loved each other.
No father could be prouder.
It gives you this wonderful twist of emotions inside when you watch them that I think is one of the things that the show does so well, is that all the characters are afforded the chance to be wonderful and complex.
Of course, training procedures have been updated quite a bit since your day. Much greater emphasis on
That
field
dude.
work.
Really? The way Faith is a reflection of Buffy, Wesley takes up a lot of the space that Giles traditionally occupied.
New Watcher?
New Watcher.
Wesley Wyndham Price.
You saw two people from a similar background going in very different directions with the tools that they had.
Is he evil?
Evil?
Giles is the stuffy guy from England who tells you to sit up straight and obey the rules. And here comes Wesley,
Who's
who
even more so.
does that to the nth degree.
He was originally conceived as a nemesis to Giles and Buffy.
Oh,
Because
really?
he was presented originally as this sort of priggy younger
Yeah, that's what
version
I thought
of
it was
Giles
gonna
who's
be
trying to
like.
supplant Giles we built him in for people to have antipathy toward him.
Are you not used to being given orders?
Whenever Giles sends me on a mission, he always says, please.
Which forces Giles out of that box and makes Giles act in a different way. So Giles, for the first time, is subversive.
He'll get used to me.
Because Wesley is the stick in the mud, Giles gets to be cool. Giles gets to be tough. Giles gets to fight.
That is
Giles
so
becomes
true.
a little bit more of an action figure.
Wesley, in a sense, propelled him further out into his own
I didn't even
identity,
notice.
his own
That's so
rebellion, his
true.
own discovery of who he really wants to be.
You're not helping.
I know. I feel just sick about it.
And that gave us great material with which to spar.
So, you're
That,
the Watcher.
yeah.
Wesley Wyndham Price.
I'm Cordelia.
And you teach psychology?
I take psychology.
She's a student.
Oh, well, yes.
That was a great idea they had. Take this kind of stuffy, know-it-all guy from the council and put him in front of this bombshell from Sunnydale High. She fires both barrels at him, and that's it. He's never the same again.
When we were shooting that scene, I was really in awe of this worldly man and his accent and the suit, and then we kissed and blew it.
Yeah, that kiss was so awkward. I just don't.
It was just awful. It wasn't, and then this way, and then
Yep.
too much tongue, not enough tongue, it was just awful, and it didn't work out. We were just like, you know what, this isn't working.
It was so funny.
I think there was a connection, but then when we tried to make it physical,
It
it
just
all went away.
Sorry.
He wasn't very savvy in that area, I guess. Not that I was.
Season 3, I started getting a lot more play. I had sex
Yeah.
for the first time, so that's huge. My girls weren't too happy about that, if you know what I'm talking about. I got them on the East Coast. I got them everywhere, really. On all corners of the earth, I've got women waiting for me.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys want to watch some television?
You're acting really immature, Buffy.
Oh, that was so funny. I hope they get together.
Okay, fine, I'm acting like a child. Maybe that's because you're both treating me like a child.
The premise was the same. You may think that you want parents who aren't so adult.
Mom?
But when you actually see parents out of control, it's very, very frightening, and you wish you had the grown-up figures back.
Looking at it initially and reading the script, it was, wow, this is going to be so much fun. How fantastically fun to go back and be a teenager.
That's cool. Very Juice Newton.
You fancy it?
Yeah, but the store's closed.
I love when Giles breaks through the store window and steals the coat for Joyce, and she says,
So brave.
it's just brave is so not what that was, but I love that the teenage Joyce thinks of that as brave.
That is true.
They're in Giles' apartment, and he's listening to the music. And it came back to me, that sense of wanting to make a connection with a guy, and the guy's completely ignoring you. Yeah, and I remembered those feelings, and of sitting there going, how do I get his attention back onto me and off those records?
Joyce's character has really been an increasing source of delight. I understand that originally Joss was not going to show Buffy's parents at all. We were never going to have on-screen parents. And I'm so glad that he changed his mind, because we've gotten a lot of mileage out of Joyce.
I didn't know that.
It's just a funny episode. It's just... You
It's
get
so
into some
funny.
characters that we haven't gotten that deeply into before, Joyce, and particularly Snyder, and give them a little motivation. I love it when you take a character that's just horrible and evil like Snyder, and you sort of go, think about where they came from. Think about when they were the kid that all the other kids would ditch and run away from and ignore and make fun of in high school.
That comeback was so good.
I breezed into town looking for Drew because she dumped me again.
Sweet home.
I assume that she's come back for Angel to try to trap him by kidnapping Buffy's mother in her own house. But in classic Whedon-esque fashion, we end up talking about our love lives over chocolate milk.
Well, she sounds very unreasonable.
She is. She's out of her mind.
That was so funny. I loved it.
What I miss most about her.
James and I haven't had that much contact on the show, but every time we have, it seems to be really memorable, both for us And then, you know, you sort of later get feedback from other people that it is as well.
I'm heartbroken, and she's kind and has had experience in that, and she's a mother, so what is she gonna do?
You got any of those little marshmallows?
Let me look. There's something in the chemistry between Joyce and Spike that's interesting. I wish sometimes that they would, you know, let it play out a little more. In spite of herself and knowing that he's a vampire and whatever, just really, really responds to that endearing side of him.
Joyce and Spike have had an interesting relationship.
Those two episodes like set the tone for
Bad
the
Girls
entire.
and Consequences were our attempt to start exploring the idea of being a slayer in terms of the power of it.
Nicely diverted, V.
Faith enjoys her job too much, and she doesn't see herself as responsible.
What's up? Vampires?
Because we didn't want to send Buffy into too dark a place where we didn't like her anymore, we used Faith's character as the person who might do something, who might take it too far.
What the actors and director bring to that is a very sexy subtext.
They like him.
When Faith talks about killing, she might be talking about sex.
She accidentally kills a human, and then that sort of sends her spiraling into a very dark place.
I think that it's like her defense mechanism from being attacked.
We wanted to show that the power that the Slayer has, while it is supposed to be used for good, is power and can corrupt.
She actually tries to reel Buffy into that and saying, we're superheroes, we can do whatever we want.
You're actually gonna take orders from him? It's the job. What else can we do? Whatever we want. We're Slayer's girlfriend, the chosen two.
The scene outside the school is about the series. What is a vampire slayer? What do we owe the world? What does the world owe us? And should we enjoy our jobs?
The goal
But
of
she
that
went too
show
far.
was to delineate the philosophical differences between these two characters.
Buffy thinks that Faith is right in this episode. She starts to flirt with, for the first time, the idea that she doesn't have to obey rules and that she is above society.
Well, I'm glad that's cleared up.
This is set up in this episode by Wesley Wyndham
Coming
Price,
in,
who is so
having a
buttoned
bitch.
down. It's gonna make that teenager rebel.
I didn't get this job because of my looks.
I really, really believe that.
So she follows Faith and then sees the consequences of it.
Like she almost died.
You noticed that too?
Buffy sees that there is a reason to follow rules, but she's not going to follow Wesley's rules. So she's left in a place where she has to figure out the answers herself.
It ended up being fairly idea-driven at the same time that you're dealing with really emotional, high-stakes stuff. They killed somebody. It was a tough episode to write. I think it ultimately worked.
Yeah, it did. It
But
really
it was
did.
not one of our, more sort of lighthearted endeavors. It ended up being, very much about the responsibilities of strength. Ideas as opposed to, more relatable melodrama.
Oh, that episode.
Earshot came from a lot of different places. It came from the funny idea of Buffy can hear everybody thinking. Then we took it in a very different direction with the idea that she hears someone thinking about killing everybody in school.
Jonathan. Poor Jonathan.
Get away from me.
I think we had to go there eventually because we talk about killing and slaying and there's lots of violence.
Don't you try and stop me.
Sadly, we live in a time where kids have access to guns.
You have all this
In the US, yeah.
pain, all these feelings, and nobody's really paying attention.
Buffy says, nobody really cares what you're feeling because they're in so much pain themselves.
With Sarah and with Danny Strong acting, it became very emotional, and the message, to me was very clear.
Stop saying my name like we're friends.
It's so true, and it's so, I think, what kids need to hear, that there is no one who's exempt from this. There is no one who coasts through high school without horrible psychic wounds.
And I think that it was just a matter of time that if we had any sense of responsibility, that we had to treat that subject seriously at some point. It was pulled off the air because it was to air, I think, less than a week after the Columbine massacre. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. We were all very stunned by that.
The end of season 3 is really crucial because this is a transition from high school to college and the transition from having one show to having Buffy and Angel as separate shows.
Obviously, it's graduation, and it means you're leaving the comfort of, or in this case, the horror of high school.
Congratulations to the class of 1999. You all proved more or less adequate.
The idea of the whole school coming together was thematically a big part of the arc of that season.
Spit out that gum.
The event that would symbolize graduation, beyond the graduation itself, was going to be the destruction of the school.
We knew it was going to have to start during the day, and then we suddenly go to night. We knew we were going to have a giant snake that was going to be built in a CGI house. We knew we were going to have flaming arrows, because you gotta have flaming arrows.
Fire!
That was epic.
We just
That
knew
was
that
so
it was going to
good.
be absolute chaos. We had hundreds of extras. We had a giant pole so they could look at the top of it and pretend it was a big snake.
Get the kids!
My favorite memory of that episode is I finally staked a vampire. I begged Joss, please, can I, this is a big battle scene, can I please stake a vampire?
I said, okay, you'll kill a vampire on screen. I'll give it to you.
Oh, nice. That was
There was a
epic.
moment where Charisma Carpenter jumps into my arms and the whole school explodes. That was cool. I very much enjoyed that, and that was her idea. I did not push for it.
It's a bad fantasy, but it's sort of a universal fantasy, I think, among high school students of the
Just
school
blow it up.
blowing up.
Yeah.
And it has acquired all sorts of really dark shadings now, but in its purest form, it's just the sort of innocence. It's not kids thinking, I want people to die. It's just people thinking, I want this institution to go away. It was very loud and very dramatic and very visual. What they did was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I thought it was all CGI, but no.
There was one moment, and they kept it in the episode, in which I kind of jumped off the stairs and I jumped into a vampire. And I was so excited to get to do that because I never get to do anything cool on the show. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like the geek of the school. This is my moment to be a rock star.
If we can really lead our audience in one direction and then make a radical left-hand turn that they didn't see coming, that's great. It's fun for them and it's fun for us, and it's a tremendous amount of work because they're always ahead of us. They're just the smartest fans that I know of.
So cool. So cool. So cool. Oh, they did the special effect and everything? Nice.
We do giant stories on a weekly basis on a limited budget. The dustings just keep getting better. I think when they first started out, they were just people going poof, and now what's really
Yeah.
cool is you can see the evolution of them as the show progresses.
Yeah, they have the spine
You
and
start to see
everything.
their underlying skeletal structure before they go.
Joss had some very specific ideas about what he wanted to see when a vampire turned to dust. He
Yeah.
wanted it to feel as if at the point of impact, all the moisture in a human being's body were just eradicated in this chemical explosion. So all these things were great, and Joss was like, yeah, that's great, but how do we do it when characters moving in live action? How do we integrate those kinds of effects without having like these tedious, boring lock-offs? And I said, well, that's where we're going to have to go to, 3D animation and compositing.
CG is computer graphics, and that really encompasses everything that comes out of the computer.
The process is basically taking elements and compositing them or layering them on top of each other in order to form a shot.
We build a rough skeleton or geometric form. We might add textures to it. Whatever shading we do to that, we then animate that object. What render refers to is the combination of all of those elements, the animation, the geometry, the textures, whatever paint we might have applied to
That's
it.
cool.
The computer puts it all together and generates an image.
It's important that you don't let go of the live action right away, because I want to see these human features. I want to see the facial acting. And I told the compositors then to use that as long as they could before they transitioned into what would be elements of dust, rubble, bone. And we ran it by David and Joss, and they're like, it's close, but there was just no visceral connection with all these pieces. And it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was looking at this piece of like tinfoil, and I brought it into the compositing bay, and I said, what if we use something like this with a moving light over it? And the compositor said, hey, whatever, let's just try everything. And it looked like the process was there.
There was
Oh,
something
cool.
missing. And what we discovered was the bones, the infrastructure of the vampire at that point. We never really saw that. We had CG build a skeleton.
And that was a big breakthrough in the dusting. When Willow goes to dust, and you watch it, and you go through it frame by frame, you see flesh eroding to dust, eroding to bones.
The skeleton was what revolutionized them. I think the first time we showed them the skeleton, everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe it, that's awesome.
This direction, that Chris suggested is what brought us to this new level. And we're continuing to refine it even today. A morph is essentially a warp and a dissolve. It's two different pieces of film that are warped and dissolved into one another.
It's not really a new effect. We can't really claim to have designed it or created it in any way. What we think we've done is kind of finessed it and really worked on making it as seamless as possible.
It's pretty
when we
seamless,
first started morphing on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we were morphing one full body into another full body. In season 3, we began to warp one full scene into the same scene with a different face.
And Lonnie and I sat down and said, well, what if we really kind of watched what we were shooting on stage and just cut the face off and tracked it onto the other character? The morphs started to work. They started to be seamless. It also enabled us to have more elaborate morphs.
The first time we actually did the face replace on the morph was again Doppelgangland.
Oh, that was good.
It has an evil twin. And when they meet, they interact. Not only do they interact, but they fight, they love each other.
Well, look at me. I'm all fuzzy.
But what was really important to production and to Joss was that they weren't photographed as traditional split screens.
We could be quite a team if he came around to my way of thinking.
Joss wanted multiplicity for television. He wanted the characters to interact. He wanted Good Willow to be able to hug Bad Willow, to be able to lick Bad Willow, and live in the same frame. So I went to Chris and I said, well, why don't we just have a stunt double, grab Willow and, we'll just replace her face the whole time. We'll stick it on, and we'll stick it on there and it'll be fine, right? And he's like, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. And
Questions? Comments?
later on the green screen have
Is that what you did?
footage for playback, through a crude switcher, but one that just gets us in the ballpark. We were able to then line up the Good Willow, to the stunt double and actually have her repeat those same actions.
This just can't get more disturbing.
We really rely on compositing
it looks really
and Chris,
smooth.
To manipulate and reposition, these elements to make them work.
Really starting to freak me out.
Chris really had to, painstakingly track the Good Willow's face onto the stunt double's head so that it, really blended in and it really felt like it was there the entire time.
It worked really well though. That's the first episode.
The pool effect in Anne was primarily CG. What they were looking for at that point was a very kind of thick, gelatinous, syrupy type of liquid so that it could suspend from both the ceiling and the floor, and the characters could pass through it.
Our 3D team was saying, look, we've got the new software, we have rendering capability, let's go for it.
We kind of kill the characters if we actually start to send them through some gelatinous material, and they weren't going to be happy with us at all.
When Alias Wavefront came out with some of its early water tools, which is what we used in Anne, to create these displacements, it was because of those tools that we were able to make that effect happen.
What we'll do is shoot the person going through a non-existent thing, falling into a hole or climbing up through a hole, and we'll roto or track our 3D model to that.
This is one of Chris's greatest strengths, is that he's knowing the show and knowing the look of the show and knowing the elements we've shot over the years. He's quickly able to kind of pull from.
Oh, now that I see how they did it, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense.
Create new things. On Revelations, Joss came to me and said, I'm going to have this really big episode where the glove of Midikin calls down lightning from above. Like, what if it pulls the power of thunder? Is that affordable? Can we do that in the time frame? And I said, absolutely we can. Lightning is a frame-by-frame process. It's hand-placed into the scene by the animator.
The big advantage to choosing to go in a hand-drawn lightning fashion rather than using filters or elements was that it enabled us to design and manipulate the lightning.
Kiki Chansamone, who's someone we work regularly with for this kind of work, which is hand-drawn 2D animation, came in and spent 2 weeks hand rotoing, which is frame by frame drawing, just like you would draw on an image. He hand drew all of this lightning.
We brought him in and said, design this, take a look at it, come up with something. We're not looking for lightning, we're looking for lightning power, something with a lot of energy and a lot of magic to it.
Season 3 was a big year for Buffy in terms of its experimentation with 3D effects. Joss was interested in finding out just how quickly and cost-effectively we could generate 3D elements.
Yeah, the
and
snake was
characters. The first
weird,
time that this happened was for
I don't like. A lot of times I don't comment on the CGI because it would be pointless and just be whiny, but it is funny sometimes. Sometimes the CGI is very funny, but I don't comment on it because I think people get legitimately offended. Someone was saying, sorry, I got distracted by a notification. But some people were like, please don't laugh at the CGI and stuff. Like, I'm not laughing like that. It like criticizing it. This is from 1999. For 1999, I think that's really pretty good. But just sometimes it looks just silly. But I don't laugh because, well, like I just said, some people get offended by it. But but they do pretty good. They do really good for.
To experiment with the idea of having.
It's mostly the 3D that sucks. Like the snake, I was like, ooh la la, I mean, ooh la la was pretty good, but sometimes the CGI is so good in this show, like the morphing and stuff, that I'm taking it back when it's bad. You know what I mean? When it's
a monster that was bigger than life interact with live action characters on television. This was a huge thing to ask of a 3-week post schedule, and
3 weeks? Oh la la.
But he wanted to see what could be done. Man Candy was our first experiment with a 3D creature, and we did it in under 4 weeks with 3 animators. And for the time frame and for a first time, I think we did quite a good job with it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like I said,
Bruce Minkus built
it's the 3Ds that looks weird, but the rest
is
like.
It was a long arm with a big metal Pac-Man on the end of it. It looked like the snout of the creature. We used this as a sightline for Sarah Gellar to watch as she was performing without the creature. But we also used this as a deflector for Sarah's stunt double and point her flamethrower at. So she pointed her flamethrower at it and hit the nose of the thing, and the flame split over the monster. That's really, I think, what made that effect work.
Did it work? Let's find out. Open the cage.
Joss
that
wanted
was
him
good.
to instigate combat with a captured vampire. We talked about how John Vulich might be able to construct a photorealistic live head that could be split in half physically on set.
The face here is a different person than the mayor, because when we shot it, we only saw it from the back, so we didn't think it was necessary to put the actor through a head cast.
John's concern was that his rigging would become apparent in a frontal view. So what John said that he could do was to give us a rear view that looked real good.
Today is about
So
change.
creepy.
Graduation doesn't just mean your circumstances change. It means you do. I guess we'll just skip to the big finish.
That was a bit weird.
I really like the snake monster. We had some special effects when the vampires get hit by flaming arrows.
I see it like almost 25 years later, so
burst into flame before being dusted.
So I can't really comment on it.
What you're dealing with. Let me guess. Is it evil?
In Band Candy and Amends, we had presented
was so creepy.
some 3D creature work that suggested
That
that
was-
we
that
might
one
be
was
able
really
to handle an entire nemesis in CG.
Nemesis.
And he said, Guys, at the season finale, I'm gonna want a 3D nemesis. The mayor is going to become giant snake. Okay. And we don't have to see his bottom half. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. We don't have to show the little things crushing things. Okay, we can probably do that.
One of the things that Lonnie and I sat down to discuss were things like how are we going to make this work and really live in the scene.
But like,
Kind of falls back
see,
to
you
the
can
always
see
wanting
that
it
it's
to look
weird,
organic and wanting
but
it to really
it's not that
look
bad.
like an
Like you
effect.
can
We
just
just
like,
didn't have
something's
the time
weird,
to-
but that's
to
it.
create
So I think they
Jurassic
did it
Park
really
for
well.
television.
We decided at that point that lighting was going to be really the issue here, and that's when we decided on the lighting scheme being darker.
With the eclipse. Yeah, there's gonna be in April, I think, 8th of April is gonna be a full eclipse here where I live for like 3 minutes or something. So I'm happy about that. I'm gonna go see that.
Really practical head, blue screen head that comes smashing through that door. And Buffy's a composite on top of it. She was shot on blue screen on a later day.
Okay.
And all CG had to do was do a monster that basically moved in that direction. We then chroma keyed out the doors and all the debris on front and put the snake-like creature back there.
Oh, when it's slowed down, you can see it more.
The processes behind the things that had been learned over the course of the season, it was quite an accomplishment. We were pleased.
Well, I think we're always getting closer to reality. What we want to do is we want to very accurately represent the real world.
It's a lot of.
I wonder
being creative.
how. Because right now, CGI when it's done well can be really good, like it can be really freaking good. So I wonder how much like animators with because I don't know anything about animating, but it must be so
and
difficult.
Also being able to look at things in a new light.
I don't think we'll have to wait too long before we have
Like
everything
I
that we
sometimes,
need to
example of movies, I think like, for example, see the quality in Buffy versus the quality of movies now. I'm like, movies now, you could almost be there for real. But I think they kind of believed that back then as well. So I wonder in the future how much progress is going to
represent
be
reality,
there,
on the computer.
They all have so many clothing, it's insane.
Occasionally when I'm watching the TV, I will notice something that one of the characters is wearing and sort of, oh, that's really cute, or that, I guess that's in style, because Buffy's wearing it.
You'll almost always see on a show like that a little rising sophistication in the look of the stars, and some of that has to do with the fact that they can just ask for better clothes and have a little more say in what they wear.
It's a show that's become very good at both reflecting what teenagers are wearing and influencing what teenagers are wearing.
I take a lot of my fashion cues from Buffy now,
Really?
because I look at what she's wearing and I think, okay, that's about to hit. There's actually a real
sorry about
awareness
that.
of what's going on in the fashion world, and that's a lot about Cynthia and her look.
I'm thinking of this for the Christmas party scene for Sarah. I think it's kind of groovy. What do you think?
Right. Well, you can't go wrong with Prada.
I know. It looks amazing on her. I have about 6 people in my department.
That looked like
Key
a
people
sketch.
that work with me. They pretty
Two
much
what?
execute. What do you think?
Right. Well, you can't go wrong with Prada.
I know. It looks amazing on her. I have about 6 people in my department. 2 key people
Key.
that work with me.
I heard 2 gay people. I was like, okay, what?
They pretty much execute the things that I need executed or implemented. They do.
Hey, Cynthia. They're just about to establish Sarah, if you want to
Oh,
come out
cool.
to set.
Yeah, I do. I get a script and I read it through and then I break it down. I look for the day breaks. I want to see how many days there are in the script, and that basically gives me a blueprint of where changes for each character, wardrobe changes would take place. For instance, a lot of times Buffy's in school and then later that night we'll see her fighting in the graveyard. I, of course, do a budget and determine how much each costume is going to cost, where I need to double something or triple it. Then I go shopping. Or I build or rent or whatever I need to do.
That's so
Then I take
good.
Polaroids and I show the Polaroids to Joss, and then Joss does the final approvals.
Cynthia Bergstrom, the clothing designer, and Sarah have a rapport and a communication which really has really shaped the look of the show.
Buffy definitely took on a brighter look. Her clothes definitely reflected more of a springy look. I used more florals. A lot of accessories were used. This is where I introduced a lot of different types of necklaces.
Sarah herself is really fashion forward and really aware of what's going on out there. And with a little more clout, she was able to say, you know, I'd like to look a little crisper this year or a little more mature.
We'll discuss what is needed for the episode and for each scene. Now,
That
this
is
coat
nice.
was used in season 3 on Sarah when she was down at the docks.
You don't give up, do you?
Because she's so petite, the 3/4 length is great on her. It doesn't overpower her. It's slim fitting in the waist. The little padded shoulder gives her a broader shoulder look. It's a good look for her. She'll come in and she'll say, you know, I feel like I need to have a lot of mobility here.
Oh, that's
It's
cool
great because
that
she
she can
communicates
talk.
to me what she needs, and I just work together as a team.
Every character really is true to their own style, and you can see that their styles evolve and change.
Of course, I read every magazine that's out there, but to me, if it's in a magazine, it's already done. So I have a tendency to not shop department stores. I like to go to the smaller specialty boutiques where they have imports from European countries or Japan. That way I get an idea of what maybe not mainstream is right now, but will be later.
You see it with Willow, who started off as such a sort of typical wallflower, and she
Yeah.
wore really cute, adorable clothes. And she still wears really cute clothes, but there's a kind of an elegance and a womanliness that's changed her
it's
look.
changed.
I wanted Willow to grow up a bit. I was transitioning Willow a bit further and moving her away from the overalls and sort of the androgynous look that she had been accustomed to. And then, of course, Buffy as sort of this nomadic slayer, just very sleek, simple, plain, militaristic. Xander was pretty much the same as he's always been.
Oh, I'm Faith. Can I borrow that? Thanks, B. Couldn't have done it without you.
The basis for Faith was white trash.
Isn't it crazy how slaying just always makes you hungry and horny?
She was a tough girl. She exuded sexuality. She was definitely one of the more promiscuous characters we've ever had on the show, and she was just dark. Just everything about her was dark.
Yeah, that's true.
Joyce has remained consistent over the years. The biggest change for her was in Band Candy when she dresses up as her version of Stevie Nicks, and she wears the mini skirt, a little saucier, definitely for Joyce. Usually she's quite the quintessential mom. Giles, being the librarian,
Always
giving
in
him
a
that
suit.
old world feel, sort of a 40s type feel with the 3-piece suits and the striped shirts.
Buffy's the most capable child I've ever known.
Thought they'd be here.
They are.
Angel's sleek, sexy, simple. I used a lot of darker colors with gem tones. I gave him a bit of an old world European look.
I
with
would
some
love
of the
for that
coats.
as well. Like, I don't have a fashion sense. I have like, I know I have a Star Labs t-shirt. Like, I don't know how to fashion. So I'd love someone to just be like, yeah, you could wear this. You just organize outfits for me. That would be so
The
good.
way that they were cut and frock styled. But I also wanted a softness to them. So sometimes I would throw on a sweater.
A sweater.
Spike has remained constant as well. The long black coat and the jeans and the black t-shirt. I worked on developing Cordelia's
Delia.
look for season 3.
It's such a Cordelia thing to say, but I remember the clothes. They were fabulous.
Her attitude changed. She was definitely harder, coarser. When Cordelia gets out of the car and she returns to school, she's just hot.
And sleek.
She's sexy. She wants to feel good about herself. She wants to make him drool, I'm sure.
I think they could be cleaner.
Of course, sir. I mean, I washed them, but...
After every meal and under your fingernails, dirt gets trapped there, and germs, and mayonnaise.
Joss said to me when I asked him about the mayor, used car salesman.
They were happy with what I looked like, and then it was just up to the costume people to put the clothes on me that they wanted, which is fairly conservative.
He sort of had this
Yeah,
wholesome look about
always
him.
had, like, a suit.
And I saw him as just this warm, friendly, almost Opie sort of guy. And so I put him in a lot of warm tones, button-down plaid shirts and trousers and sport coats. We never
It's like, she says all this, it's like, to me, it's just, they're suits, but the fact she's like, oh, in warm tones, like, They don't
knew
even know.
that he was bad, but in the beginning, he seemed like a nice guy, like an okay kind of guy.
I think we have a terrific costume department here, and they're very clever in taking elements of a script and finding ways to costume. I credit them greatly.
Nice. Weapons. Oh, that was good. I didn't see that. He burst into like dust, but it was a
Weapons
flaming
are
dust.
shorthand to convey how very important the menace is that Buffy's going to be facing.
You remember this? I took it from Faith. You want to get it back from me? Dick.
It's the moment in Aliens where Sigourney Weaver duct tapes the two guns together, and you sort of go, oh, this thing she's fighting is big.
We always talk about why don't vampires use guns? You know, why don't we have modern weaponry?
They are, by their nature, medieval.
3 years I've been on Buffy, we've fired a gun maybe twice.
Medieval weaponry is the only thing that's really effective for the Slayer.
It just reaches back to that old vampire Transylvania mythology.
There's more of an emotional connection to ancient weaponry.
We could update it, but the kids are so modern that it's kind of a nice contrast between that and contemporary culture.
Vampires don't need weapons. They're a living weapon. The only thing that works against them would be a stake. You need to put a stake through their hearts.
So you're going to talk about props on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You got to talk about stakes. So you start out making a stake that is real wood. When we actually do the dusting, we use what's called a retractable. When it's fast, you come in, we stab vampires all the time, and to look like it's going in his skin. Joss did a drawing of a knife that looked a lot like this, and I found it in a catalog. It was different than his drawing a little bit, but he just wanted a multi-bladed prop weapon. The cool thing was it had a cool name, Hunga Munga. It's meant to be thrown, and wherever it hits, unless it's directly on the handle, it'll do some cutting.
After a while, you know, wooden stake is that old thing. So we were just trying to give her a little more, it's like any fashion accessory for Buffy. She's always looking for something new and hip.
Put a ball bearing on one side of the Hunga Munga away from camera, and would just put it on a rod and spin it. So it would appear that it would catch it flying through air, but it would just be spinning in front of camera.
I very much wanted to see Giles with a sword in his hand. I think that Tony Head is an actor who can do a lot of different things very, very well, and one of them is be a badass. I wanted to see that because he'd been trapped in Tweed for a while at that point in season 3, and thought it would be fun to let him break out.
Crossbows.
We actually have to make these practical. We don't want it to shoot like a real crossbow or it'll send the arrow right through you, so we use basically a big rubber band as a string, pull it back and actually make them shoot, but it just spits it out of frame. We cut and go into it hitting a vampire. Buffy uses battle axes a lot, so I'm always on the lookout for small battle axes. It's another one. We just try to get different looks. This I actually altered from one that had another blade off to the side and chopped it down just to fit it in that bag.
That look on your face is my reward.
This is a thing of beauty, boss.
He presented her with this elaborate knife, and it became symbolic of the whole Mayor-Faith relationship.
Weapons often reflect the character who uses them. A knife is a weapon where you need to be face-to-face with your enemy in order to kill them. It's a much more direct weapon.
I see you're admiring my
Yeah, against like a bow or something.
Well, actually, I was thinking of stabbing you through the heart with it. Please do.
This is the letter opener that Angel throws at the mayor. I made a lightweight duplicate of it. I made this out of aluminum to match it so he could throw it much quicker.
They would place a piece that went on like this, that stuck out here and stuck out in the back, and then you'd look at it and play with that.
Nice shot.
They, of course, would take this, they could just take that piece out.
Also made a retractable.
Oh my god.
So it looked like the mayor stuck his hand up and the letter opener went in his hand.
Then I mimed taking it out like that so you could hold it, and then I had to sit in front of a green screen on a different stage in a chair with the camera fixed with a scar that they had painted in. And then again, on the computer, they could make it all fade away and go away, look like it was healing up.
It's good. That was
Trying to
badass.
come up with something new and cool and different.
I think this was the last one. It was. Well, those were my thoughts. And on season 3 and the extras, I hope you liked them. If you did, don't be afraid to leave a like, comment if I below, subscribe to see more. And I hope I'll see you guys in season 4 of Buffy and season 1 of Angel. Ciao.